the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Alem Bello. Alem is a first-year student in our full-time MBA class of 2027, and he and I were recently connected to talk more about his background, his decision to pursue an MBA, what led him to Darden, what he's enjoyed about his first year, his plans for his summer, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. And as always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to the Experience Darden podcast so you never miss an update. Remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Alem Bello. Alem, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brett. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you here. How are you doing? How's everything?
Great. I'm doing great. Exciting times, just wrapped up my first year at Darden and I'm basically preparing for my internship this summer. Battling a small cold or a slight cold now. But other than that, it's been pretty amazing. First year went incredibly quick. And so I've just had the last 3 weeks or the last couple of 3 weeks to basically reflect on everything that has happened over the last several months at Darden and in the US. So pretty excited.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. Tell us a little bit more about what you'll be doing this summer for your internship.
Absolutely. This summer I will be going to Atlanta to intern with Bing. It's going to be 10 weeks working on a project I do not yet know. But yeah, I will find out in a week's time. So super excited about that.
That sounds amazing. Have you spent much time in Atlanta before?
Well, I think I've spent at most short stints of like 1 week. I visited in 2023. I visited last year and this year as well. So I have visited a bit, but haven't stayed there longer than a week.
Yeah, it's a great town. I have family down there, so I get to visit on a somewhat frequent basis, and it's a great place. Lots of great restaurants, things to do. Very warm in the summer, though.
Oh yes, it's very similar to where I'm from in Nigeria, so that part is good. I'm also excited for the World Cup and the whole World Cup fever in Atlanta, and the food as well. So yeah, it should be great.
How are you feeling about the World Cup?
Feeling good. Sadly, Nigeria isn't playing, but really excited. There are a couple good games I am hoping to catch. Although I noticed the Atlanta games are during work hours, so we'll see if I'm able to catch any of the ones over the weekend, but I'm really feeling good. It's exciting to be around the World Cup. This is the first time I'll be around the World Cup. I had previously watched the Africa Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire. I was there for the whole month, so that was super, super exciting. It was such a thrilling event.
Wow, that's amazing. You were there for the entire month.
Yes, I was there for the entire month.
Yeah, we're recording this here in early June. I think the first matches start the weekend of June 12. I think the U.S. men's national team plays that Friday night at 9 p.m.
Yes.
It's going to be exciting. Hard to believe it's finally here. It feels like you have to wait forever. And then all of a sudden, these friendly games start a couple weeks prior to the World Cup. And next thing you know, it's the World Cup.
Yeah, it is. And I think the US is looking up. They played their last friendly against Senegal. Promising signs. Let's
Yeah,
see how it
Germany this
goes.
weekend. So we'll see how that goes. Another warm-up test. There's always a lot of
Yeah.
drama about who's on the team, who's not on the team. It must be difficult taking 26 players when you have so many people, an entire nation of people who play soccer to choose from. So,
I know. Such a tough job. Such a tough job.
well, it's great talking with you, Alem, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast, even with a cold. We're glad to have you here. Tell us a bit more about your backstory. What did you do before coming to Darden?
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I'm originally from Nigeria. I'd lived there. I went for my undergrad in Nigeria where I studied accounting. And then after that, I worked across West Africa and East Africa. I worked with GE Healthcare in the Lagos office for about a couple years. And then I joined Paystack. Paystack is a payments processing company in Nigeria. And we're recently acquired by Stripe. So I worked post-acquisition with the expansion into East Africa, Kenya, um, and all the other countries there. So that was amazing. It was very exciting for me. I grew well. I was able to lead projects on my own. And so I got to a point where I felt I needed to make a step up to the next phase. And so I wanted global exposure. I wanted more international experience, and that was why I thought to move to the US for my MBA. And here I am at Darden. So
Yeah, did you spend much time in the US before coming to the US for an MBA?
not really. I had visited just 2 years prior. I did spend some time in 2023 and then in 2024 when I was applying. So other than that, no, it was my first visit in 2023. I was here for about a month. And then 2024 when I was actually applying and I wanted to visit some of the schools, I came again. So pretty new.
Yeah. How did you decide an MBA was the right step for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it was solidified during the Africa Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire. So an MBA was an idea I'd played with whilst I was working at GE, but then I wanted to do more hands. I wanted to get more hands-on experience, and so I put that aside. But then during the tournament, I sort of met a lot of people from different countries, industries, and backgrounds. And that experience just basically reminded me how much bigger the world was than the environment I had originally operated in. So I thought that was like a perfect time after that month to sort of go all in, work through the application process, and see how soon I could move to the US. Like I explained earlier, I had gotten to a point in my career where I wanted to make that jump to management, and I felt like the MBA was a perfect training ground for that. And then a very good pathway towards international business and exposure in the US. So I'd say most likely that whole 1 month experience in Cote d'Ivoire sort of solidified the plan for me.
And what is it about Darden that really resonated with you?
Darden, yes. So with like Darden, I think Darden stood out for three main reasons. One was when I decided I wanted to do the MBA, I wanted to pivot into consulting, and Darden had like a very strong consulting placement record. And then the second was the case method. It's very unique. I saw a couple videos, I loved it. And then the third and most important one for me was just the community. Darden had like a very strong reputation for being tight knit, and I experienced it myself. So knowing that I was going to recruit consulting, I knew that Darden was like a perfect place to get into the East Coast, right? To place well, be close to home, be in a very nice time zone, to be able to keep in touch with family. And then I just felt the case method was like the type of rigor I needed to step into a new culture, to step into a new environment, to build that confidence. So I saw it as a very strong opportunity to take hold of. And then with the close knit community, when I was thinking of schools to visit, I reached out to the African students at Darden, and they were super supportive. I had never met any of them before business school. But then when I told them I wanted to come visit, they were super excited. I was going to come for just Darden days. But then the former president of the Darden African Business Association offered to house me for longer than that if I wanted to stay. So I was like, oh, wow, I would definitely like to stay longer. And then I stayed longer, had like a whole week, attended a few Darden events. And then I also met my girlfriend then. So it was one of those fairy tale beginnings. I met her during that 1 week. We kept in touch, and yeah, it was only up from there. Like it was definitely Darden after that.
That's amazing. What a whirlwind week. A lot accomplished during that week.
Yeah, a lot more than I actually thought I was gonna get done.
All right, so you come to Darden, you're a brand new MBA student, getting used to your first year. What was the biggest adjustment for you? What was that like?
Yeah, that one, I would say the academics. Returning back into an academic environment after several years in the workforce was the most difficult part. I was done with undergrad in like 2016, so it was like 9 years where I'd not been in that sort of environment. And the case method, as it's popularly known, is very intense. You're constantly having to prepare for case discussions. And during core, we would have three classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then two on Thursdays. So it was reading a lot of cases, thinking through decisions, working through them, and making a deliberate effort to also participate in class. So that for me, I would say was the most difficult part. People often described it as drinking from a fire hose. And honestly, I would say it's so accurate. Like I remember hearing it when I was applying and I was like, oh, don't worry, I can handle it. And I came in and I'm like, wow, this is super intense. But yeah, it was definitely an adjustment for me. But then with Darden, like there's just so much support. Second years were super supportive, helping to just walk through good habits we could pick up and strategies we could basically take on as we're tackling everything. And it sort of worked out. After a while, I got like a nice rhythm. The learning team was a very nice way of also, going through the entire process together. And so it ended up working out really well.
What section were you?
Oh yeah, I was in section. I am section E. We are the current Darden Cup champions, current soccer champions as well.
Gosh, we have had so many Section E people from your class here on the
Oh,
podcast. Y'all are
yeah,
everywhere.
we are the best. We're the best section in Darden, so I'm not surprised.
It does seem like you're very involved as a section, taking on leadership roles and different things.
Yeah, that's actually very true. I remember when the list of leadership roles came up, we had like a good number of people within our section who, became leaders. And I'll say it's honestly, it was a very, very beautiful period with the section. We just developed like a very strong bond within ourselves. I loved every moment of it. I think it's very different from other sections. And the friendships, I feel like, yeah, I have like 70 plus strong friends that are slowly turning family as well. So it's really good.
Yeah, what was your favorite section tradition or norm that you had?
I would say for me, it was the chair. I definitely loved the chair. We had one person in our section who always led it. He was so pumped. I loved the energy. I loved it, especially after Darden Cup events when we would um, all gather together and just cheer ourselves on. It's a very strong affirmative statement. I believe E will win, and E always was winning, and we ended up winning at the end of the day. So yeah, that for me was my favorite.
Yeah, it feels like a close cousin of a cheer you might hear during the World Cup. It's something that occasionally gets bandied around by U.S. men's national team fans, I believe, that we will win. Similar.
Nice.
You
That's
don't get to say it
nice.
that often if you're a U.S. fan, but maybe, maybe.
This time will be different. Who
Yeah,
knows?
I believe that you will win. And of course, you won Darden Cup. Did you have any favorite parts of Darden Cup? Any favorite competitions?
Uh, yeah. I I played the soccer tournament, and that I think we won soccer overall. That was super intense. That was nice. I liked it. Other than soccer, which was very physical, I would say talent show. Talent show was super nice. It was just great. It had, I think, the most participation of any of the Darden Cup events. It wasn't too physical. It was nice. It was entertainment. And there were some really good performances by other sections as well. So it was just very good to be part of that. It was one of the events where we had also the most external attendance. So and my girlfriend was there, a few other people came. So it was just good to be around as many people associated with Darden.
And your career goals, it sounded like you had been thinking about consulting for a while. Your career goals change, evolve, stay the same. How did that go over the course of your first year?
Yeah, that's a good one. My career goals have remained the same. I also sort of had like a different route with recruiting. I recruited pre-MBA, and so I went through the process during the summer of 2025, whilst folks were still enjoying the summer. I had to like try and work through cases, and eventually did get into vein. Now, what that has afforded me coming into business school is the peace of mind and the flexibility to open up to like other opportunities in the US and in Darden. I remember when I finished my base program, I was advised to open up my mind to just learn more about what was out there, to know, how things felt on a personal level. And I did that at Darden. And because I didn't have the pressure of trying to nail down a job, I was able to look into things like my passion, sports, football in the US. entertainment and media entrepreneurship track position, which was in the US. That was the first time I heard about it. So like I spent some time just basically exploring without the pressures of trying to nail down a job. And honestly, truly grateful for that opportunity as well. So yeah, still down on consulting, but now I know even way more than I knew before I came to the US.
You have your summer internship, and then you come back for your second year at Darden. What are you looking forward to in your second year? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I am really excited about international travel. The international travel is one part of the MBA that I don't think I got to really partake in during first year, during core. But at Darden, there's the DWC, the Darden Worldwide courses, and there's an exchange program as well that I'm looking forward to. It's another opportunity to gain more exposure internationally. And so I'm really looking forward to leveraging both if I can. Other than that is coming back to give back, supporting the new first years that are coming in. I'm currently the vice president of admissions for the Darden African Business Organization. And like I mentioned, Dabo invested so much in me when I was coming in, and I'm looking forward to doing the same for our incoming first years. I have started working on some programming for them, which has been really nice to see. I remember just being in their shoes not too long ago. So I'll say just those two, and definitely getting back with my friends from Section E and the rest of Biden. This past 1 month, I figured that I really missed good company. So yeah, I'll say those three.
Yeah, but curious to hear, like, as it's vice president of admissions for Dabo, as it's known, the Darden African Business Organization.
Yeah.
What are some things that you hope to accomplish in that role, or just some things that are on your mind? You mentioned how people have been a resource for you, but are you thinking about things beyond that?
Yes. So one of the key things that I've started thinking about is basically how to um, provide more visibility for the organization with Darden. I'm just basically amplifying Darden to the African network, the African continent. We have a lot of amazing um, talent down in Africa, and it's very important to sort of give people that representation to know that they can actually take a hold of this opportunity. And so one of the few things we're trying to explore with the admissions team at Darden is figuring out ways that we could partner more with educational resources in Africa to host more Darden events that would put Darden in front of these students and also get these students an opportunity to interact with the Darden community. Um, we have done a bit of that. I remember meeting some of the AdCom in Lagos when I was in Nigeria, but we want to expand that to more African countries moving forward. The African continent one has like 54 countries. And yeah, we have a healthy number of representation here, but like there's still room to expand beyond like key countries that we currently have. So that's one key thing that I'm hoping to accomplish with admissions all through second year.
And I know my colleague Christian West will be spending some time in Africa in the coming months. He'll be out there recruiting, which is it's always great to see. As terms of electives, how did you think about picking electives? You have the opportunity to take a lot of classes in the second year. How'd you narrow down the universe?
Yeah, that was a good one. We just finished selecting electives for Q1 and Q2, so first semester. And for me, it was three key things that I was looking out for. First was courses that would help me meet like my management science specification, and then I had some extra interest in data analytics, AI strategy, and then global business. So those four key areas were things I was looking out for as I was selecting courses. And so I went through the list of all the courses available, sort of mapped them out um, with against each of the specializations, and then sort of picked courses that would cut across multiple specializations to just help cover as much ground so that I have extra space to chase other courses that I liked but didn't meet any of those criteria. So once I was able to meet those criteria with like 5 courses, I then started going into picking courses that I felt were very interesting. There was a course on economics of sports that I'm really looking forward to taking in second semester. And then for first semester, I started going around with some of the professors I already had that I really loved, and I wanted to be part of their class. The private equity class as well is one that's very famous at Darden. And I had Alina like for my financial management. So I was like, yeah, I wanted to do that. And so I just went down picking courses that I really wanted to do, either because I liked the topic, I was fascinated by the topic, or I really enjoyed learning from that professor. So that's how I was able to rank all my courses for first semester.
I appreciate your sharing that. We get a lot of questions from prospective students about concentrations and pursuing a concentration. And I'm telling you, I have this conversation with people on the podcast all the time, and I very rarely hear people cite concentrations as to what's driving their elective choice. It tends to be more just, I'm interested in this. There's a professor I wanted to take a class with, a topic that's really captured my attention. So it's more that, and then maybe people finding out that they've earned a concentration through pursuing these different interests and taking these different classes.
Yeah, that was like my main point. And I just wanted to get ahead so that I'm able to chase like more interest closer to the end. So yeah. And you have to think about this thing when you're like an international student with everything that's going on. Like you need to be very focused on, the direction you want to like play in. And so it's probably why my method is informed by that.
Well, let me ask you a question that I've been posing to people who've come on the podcast over the past few weeks. We have people who listen to this podcast who may be planning a trip to Charlottesville at some point in the fall or in the coming year to kind of explore and learn a little bit more about the school. What would be 3 things you would recommend that someone try, do, eat, etc., while they're in Charlottesville?
That's a very good question. I have to think about that one. 3 things to do. The first one would be very common. It would be one of the wineries. Charlottesville is known for having so many amazing wineries. I would definitely recommend trying some of the wineries in Charlottesville. And then, other than that, I would say definitely get food here. For me, I would say Monsoon Siam. That was like my number one spot when I moved here. So definitely check that out. And I would say either try and get on a Monticello tour, or if you have some extra time, you could take a trip to Lorry Caverns. I went there with some of the international students after ISOP. It was super amazing. Just being able to go into the caves, seeing all those wondrous elements. I really did enjoy that trip. It was about 14 minutes drive, but it was worth the drive. So that's like an extra bonus. If you have time, do definitely visit Lorry Caverns. But other than that, definitely go on a tour, enjoy the food in many restaurants here, depending on what you're looking for, and definitely go to one of the wineries.
I appreciate that. So your list was wineries, Monsoon Siam, which is a restaurant downtown,
Yeah.
Luray Caverns, and maybe even Monticello. That's pretty decent weekend. That's active itinerary.
Yeah, that I think that covers like the wide range of activities you could do here. So
Yeah, that's cool. Imagine Monticello will be very busy this summer with the 250th celebration of the U.S. Independence. So, um, last question for you. What's a piece of advice you would share with our prospective students who are listening to this, thinking about their MBA journey?
I'd say one key thing I would say is always come with a plan, but most importantly, be very open-minded. Don't get too attached to a single outcome. And it's one of the many traps students tend to fall into when coming for an MBA. They have one single outcome and they're all invested in it. And then things sort of change. You learn new stuff. You get some level of traction with different industries, different companies. And depending on where you are in the phase, you might see some people struggle a bit more than others. So I'd say coming into the MBA, yes, know exactly what you want to do. If you don't, that's also fine. But be very open to numerous opportunities that you probably didn't think was well suited for you, but eventually you find very interesting. When you are that open to trying multiple paths or um, open yourself to multiple opportunities, you tend to be able to gain more out of the system than coming with just one single outcome and neglecting those opportunities that existed. Recruiting at Darden and in the US for MBA students happens across different methods. Consulting banking is very structured. Tech is a bit different. MGM is different. And so coming in, it makes sense to have like plan A, B, C, D work simultaneously, coffee chats, learning, and then piecing things together till you're able to finally, come to that outcome that makes the most sense for you. But then, excluding some and then just focusing on one key part. And then if things work out differently, you then are stuck again, in that pathway. So I'd say just come with a plan, have ABC alternatives, and be very open-minded to more information.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think you make a great point about having multiple options and pursuing them equally, right? Sometimes people have a plan B or plan C, but they really are focused on plan A. And then when plan A doesn't work out, they haven't really been working on plan B and C, and then they scramble. And that's tough. I think if you can pursue all of these things equally, view them as equally viable, put energy behind them, and just see what happens and what works out. Good to have a diversified approach at this point. And for folks who are wondering what MGM is, that's marketing and general management. So people may know that already, but there's a lot of
Yes,
acronyms in the
yes.
business school world, and so just trying to help everybody keep straight. So,
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Brett. You're
well, Lem,
absolutely
thank you
correct.
so much for coming on the podcast. Great chatting with you. Hope you feel better soon and enjoy your summer in Atlanta. Sounds like a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brett. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. And yeah, let's see what the summer has for us. And we'll be back again in no time.
And that was my conversation with Alem Bello, a first-year student in our full-time MBA class of 2027. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's Darden, @virginia.edu. Till next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.